Wake up! Wake up, wake up, wake up! Up you wake, up you wake, up you wake, up you wake! This is
TC and Jake,
your voice of choice, the world's only 12-hour strong man on the air. Here on We Love Radio 108 FM, the last on your dial, but first in your hearts, and that's the truth. Root. Here I am I here? You know it, you know. This is
TC and Jake,
doing the nasty to your ears to the nasty. Eyes only play the platters that matter, the matters they platter, and that's the truth. Root.
From the heart of Bed-Stuy, you're listening to
TC and Jake.
Doing the yin and the yang, the hip and the hop, the stupid fresh thing, the flippity flop.
I think we could start off today's episode by just going around the horn saying, who feels like dying?
Yeah. I've puked before the show because I haven't been able to keep any food or water down for about 36 hours. That's been fun.
That is fun.
Yep. And it's both ends. So I think I got food
Really
poisoning
cool.
or something.
Yeah,
Yep.
just trying to get everything out.
Yeah. Which is what I just did in your bathroom, so I'm sorry.
I thought that week-old beef we left sitting out would be okay, but here I am. No, I'm pissed off about it, to be honest. Not the defiled the bathroom. That's okay. It had taken an assault a mere 5 minutes before, so
I could tell.
Withstand.
That actually helped me.
Good.
Yeah.
But no, I'm pissed because that's clearly more than I'm dealing with, which then upstages what I feel is a considerable. Whatever. I'm sick. It happens. I guess it's just getting old. I feel like it's just the same thing. Like came back. Like I was coughing a couple weeks ago.
Right.
And then it got better. And then it was just like, fuck you, motherfucker, I can win. You really got to hand it to the never say die spirit of whatever bacteria is eating me alive.
It's kind of producing our show this month.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, man. For me too. And I think I do have food poisoning, but if my sleep schedule gets changed, almost every time that happens now, I get sick. So if the Mavericks are going to be on until 12:15 and I can't go to bed until like 2, I will be sick the next day. It doesn't matter. Like, even if I were to like sleep 7 hours, if it's a different 7 hours, it's like if I do that twice in 4 days, I'm sick. It blows. I thought you were going to say you were pissed off at me for not puking live.
Oh, yeah, that would have been cool.
There is a chance. Because the problem is I need to hydrate.
Do you have a bucket required?
I'm going to use this thing.
Okay.
Maybe I'll use the equipment bag.
That seems
looks
like a less
waterproof.
good idea.
But yeah, the problem is when you're dealing with, I guess, food poisoning, something, you need to hydrate. But every time I drink a whole cup of water, I vomit it up within like half an hour.
I've never had the can't hold down water.
It's bad, dude.
It sounds bad.
It's not fun. I feel bad. But the Mavs are up 2-0. NBA fans are dumping shit on players during games from the stands again. So the world is healing.
Yeah, I mean, especially Philly specifically, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Will this go down in the pantheon lore of throwing batteries at Santa?
Probably not quite to that degree, dumping popcorn on a guy, but it did...
I mean, it was more his reaction. Like, to do anything that leads to the 6 people hold me back. And it didn't seem like a disingenuous hold me back.
Oh, I don't know that there are many of those with him.
Yeah. No, he was really pissed off at those security guards. They wouldn't let him beat a fan.
And that also brought, I think it's a Trill Withers theory from Twitter, brought back to the fore something that he's tweeted, I think, once a year since I started following him, which is every player should be able to beat up one fan each season. But it's kind of like a coach's challenge where you don't get another one even if it's successful.
Yeah.
And, you might want to save that for game 82. You might want to save it for the finals.
Yeah, but like timeouts, you don't get to take them into the offseason.
That's true.
So
it's just the Jason Garrett theory.
Yeah, I might. If I felt like I had a good one, I would just go for it. Bill James had a thing. I forget what the context was, but just made me think. Like like with a lot of things in history, you have a general, like, I know that people played baseball in the late 1800s, and so you then make some assumptions of like, well, it was probably more or less like it is now, but just maybe like slightly less people, and they were all wearing hats,
Suits.
and he was kind of tracing that through the history of whatever, that it's this give and take where I think just at the beginning, you could do anything. Everyone could do anything.
Yeah.
You know, the fans could say whatever the fuck they wanted, and then players would go into the stands and knock their lights out. And that you have the policing on both sides that then goes from there, and that you have to keep it in balance.
Right.
Like, obviously it is bad if a player goes and beats the shit out of a fan, but if the only thing you're doing is policing the player behavior, then it's really pretty fucked up. You don't want people to be able to say or do whatever they want to those people because they're people.
Yeah.
So, I believe it or not, I think more healing, education, and restrictions are necessary in Philadelphia.
Yeah, but I think that healing would have started if Russ went up there and killed that guy. That would have been a deterrent that would have lasted at least 1 week.
I watched the clip several times. I didn't have a real good understand. Like, what's step 2 here? Like, the guards let you go. Okay. How is he getting up there? Like, he's going to, like, run around to, like, an entrance?
He would have found a way to
Like,
get up there.
I guess, but
He would have scaled.
it would have
that
taken
wall.
comically long, I think.
Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, you're right. It would, but it would also be very funny.
I mean, let him go, dude. Someone else can, if he gets closer. I just want to see this play out a little farther.
Are you ever offended by the not pop-up ads, but what are the ads you get that are like adjacent to, like, okay, whatever you call this, like the Outbrain type ads?
Yeah.
For some reason, I keep getting ones that are like cycling themed.
Okay.
This one says, "Never underestimate an old man with a bicycle," and it's
Did
like
you let
a
Craig
racing
borrow
shirt.
your computer?
It's like offensive to me. Like,
Yeah.
my computer thinks I'm into cycling.
And that you're old.
Well, that part is evidenced by the fact that I'm puking before we record
Yeah.
because I'm tuckered out.
No ability to process food or water.
Right. So the old man part, yeah, but I'm like, come on. I got a lot of weird interests, but cycling is not one of them. And like, we know the ones on the porn sites are broken.
Yeah.
Unless you log in. You don't log in, do you?
No.
Okay.
That's a firm line for me. I don't give out any information.
Okay. Because, yeah, like, you can definitely get, hey, find hot MILFs 76051. They obviously know that part. But whenever they're suggesting, like, hentai to me.
Hentai, and just, I don't like any ads with dicks in them.
Yeah.
Like the ones where it's just like a close up on a dick and it's like, make your dick bigger. Dude, I don't like, unless it's accompanied by something else, I don't want to see a dick.
Another dick.
Yeah.
No,
Like it's something I'm willing to tolerate. Like if there's other things going on in the image, but that by itself, why would I ever?
What about the pre-roll ads now? And I know our one specific listener, he gets very mad every time we talk about this because I don't use a ad blocker.
Uh-huh.
But what about the ones now where it's like 2 shot glasses and they're just pouring lotion and they're like, "This is you now. This could be you
Gross.
later." I'm like, "Yeah, dude."
Just bad advertising.
I just want such a big load.
Here's a little tip
gross.
for you guys. Like whatever product you're advertising, just have a large pair of breasts.
Yeah.
And then write the name of the product
Right.
on the the text above it.
Right.
That's it. No other things necessary.
Right.
You can make it the same set. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just change out the product name, whatever, dude. The
We're
rest
fixing
of the
a lot
world
of
seems to
problems.
understand this better than the porn world, honestly.
Did you hear that
Like Budweiser is not telling you about fucking the delicious taste of Budweiser.
I told Dan about your idea
Sometimes they do.
of consulting for fertility clinics?
Yeah, I need to get a business plan for
Yeah.
that.
Well, a P1 replied and told us,
If that's what he does.
no, he's like, you should call yourself a Kamalier.
Oh, that's a good one.
So you can take
I
that
like
free
that.
of charge right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, now it's kind of a collaborative group project.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining me starting this billion-dollar business and then this tape being played together in a courtroom as the guy's trying to explain that he actually deserves half of my $1 billion because I said it was a collaborative group project. Probably a mistake to call it a collaborative group project.
No, you should do like the McDonald's guy did.
Yeah.
Just fuck over the real idea man.
Well, I'm the idea man. I don't want to fuck over myself.
Yeah, but I think the Kamalier part is huge here. Like, to really get this thing to jump, and you're going to need that.
Yeah.
Maybe you could buy him out. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm very close to throwing up again.
Oh, okay. That's great news. I hope it goes well. Whatever you do, try and catch it on the camera.
Will you edit it out?
If you want me to. I mean, I don't think that's in the best interest of the listener.
Okay.
So I had a little tidbit that I wanted to tell you about.
Okay.
I don't know, speaking of algorithms, I don't know how this got served to me. I guess I will. It probably starts, I don't know that my YouTube remembers all this way back, but I think that guitar things first started showing up because from the period of like 2011 to 2013.
You were just Googling tabs all the time?
Yes. No, we would take breaks on this show, and so we'd have music coming back from break. And I thought that it was a real waste that there are so many covers recorded by annoying teens and posted to YouTube that no one ever gets to watch. So I thought as our break music, I would just have, fucking 11-year-old belting out Living on a Prayer, and that Jake would really like that.
Maybe he didn't, though.
It turns out he didn't.
No.
Didn't keep an open mind. That was the big problem. And so I think that maybe from that it took that I really like guitar videos, which I wouldn't say is entirely accurate, but I get served a decent amount of people playing guitar videos. And sometimes it's like, all right, let's see what they got. And in this case, the one thing I do love of music YouTube or music anywhere is whenever you can get the isolated tracks. Whenever someone's sitting in front of the master tapes.
Yeah.
And being like, here's the drums. Just listen to the drums of this song you've heard a million times, but right now it's just the drums and just the bass. And so...
You ever seen the classic album on the Steely Dan album?
I have not seen the one on the Steely Dan album. You have. And they're kind of hard to find. If anyone has a easy way to get a trove of classic albums, please let me know. It was a series called Classic Albums. So I'm not actually just asking for general classic albums.
That one's great. That one stuck out to me.
Yeah,
the Pink Floyd one's actually pretty good too, and I don't even like that album.
I have the whenever I went to look on, the parts of the internet I'm familiar with, I think I got the Black Album one again, which I do enjoy, and then I have the Duran Duran's Rio, which I also like.
I'm also a big fan of like whenever Danny would surreptitiously talk to the sound guy at a petty theft gig, and then get Mike's vocals isolated. Not exactly the same as a classic album, but still very entertaining.
I would say it's classic. But yeah, so I'm scrolling along, and at some point it gets suggested to me that there's a situation where Ozzy Osbourne was, someone got the master tapes to Crazy Train and had him sit down and listen to just played for him isolated tracks of Crazy Train.
Okay.
And Crazy Train was recorded, and it was written by him and Randy Rhoads. Randy Rhoads. Well, I'll just let Ozzy tell you. Okay. So I'm watching the series. This is a very short clip, but it was my moment of zen. Okay. This is Ozzy Osbourne listening to just Randy's guitar on Crazy Train. Randy. That's the guy who's like playing it for him. Just looks at him and says, Randy. Randy.
He died. Yeah, I know.
You want it one more time since it's short?
Like every single piece of it is incredible.
Yes.
Randy. He died. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
A play in 3 acts.
Okay, yeah. So the fact that the dude, the engineer, feels the need that he has to tell Ozzy Osbourne that the riff on maybe like a top 5 most famous riff ever. Who it was played by? You know, a guy who was in Black Sabbath.
Yeah, I would assume that if you ask that guy, do you think that Ozzy already knows it's Randy? He would say, yeah, of course. And then it's the question of, well, then why'd you say it, bud?
Exactly.
But there are people that say things that they know that their audience already knows. We call them, fucking annoying folks. And I think he's just one of those.
So and then Ozzy, while consuming one of the most iconic riffs of all time on a song that he does vocals on, he doesn't have any comment on the riff, but simply that the man who played it died.
And
I know.
no one with that length of hair, the guy playing it for him has very long hair. No one with that length of
They
hair.
all know Randy's dead.
Yeah, you're not breaking the news to him, bud. He has the tapes to Crazy Train.
And the guy's reaction is not like sullen.
Yeah, he's like,
come on.
he seems a little offended that Ozzy's telling him, but it's like, he's Ozzy Osbourne, so how about you let him do whatever the fuck he wants?
That's awesome.
Yeah, but so I watched that and loved it, and was certainly aware that Randy Rhoads died. Thought it was some kind of accident, but I was like, you know what? Give me a little more on that. Ozzy's not going to give it to me, apparently. He's got a pretty short summary of the events.
Yep.
But I'd like to find out. Are you familiar with the details surrounding Randy Rhoads' death?
I guess I'm not. I just know he's dead. He died.
He died.
That's all I know.
So they were touring. I believe they were in the state of Florida. Tour bus breaks down.
Okay. And he got out, right?
He did. I mean, all they find some kind of like a tour bus barn.
Okay.
And someone goes to work on the tour bus, but it's going to be a while. There's some other tour buses just sitting there. Who the fuck knows what goes on in Florida? I guess they just got tour bus graveyards over there. Maybe they do everywhere.
That checks out.
Weird, whatever. And I get, like, as part of this tour bus graveyard, they've got other various mechanical things, including like a little single engine plane. And so they're like, hey, we're going to have to fix this tour bus. It's going to be a while. And you guys want to go up on the plane? And, one of the members of the traveling party is like, yeah, I'll go up on the plane. And the rest of the guys just go into the tour bus to sleep. They just want to, surely they need it, right? And so they're probably having trouble holding down food and liquids.
Yeah, probably so.
And so he takes them up, whatever random member of the traveling party, and says, this will be fun. Let's go buzz those fuckers. And so in the plane just gets as close to the tour bus as he can, flying. And then pulls up and lands, and they're all like, that was funny shit. And he's like, anyone else want to go? And Randy's initially like, I'm scared as fuck of flying. I don't want to do that shit.
Right.
And there's a lady that's like, I think it'd be cool, but I have a heart condition. And at that point, Randy hears that a lady with a heart condition's going up. And then I think the pilot says like, oh, well, then I'll knock off that crazy stuff. She has a heart condition. And Randy's like, well, it would be cool to get some photos to send to me mom. I don't remember if Randy's British the way Ozzy is, but it doesn't matter.
They have to all be British, yeah.
Yeah. And so they go up in the plane at that point, at which point the pilot like 5 fucking times is like, fuck y'all, I'm buzzing the bus. And then he clips a wing on the bus.
And all 3 of them died?
Yeah, dude. Fiery crash, like just the wing disintegrates.
I'm surprised nobody in the bus died.
Yeah. I think it like opened up a hole in the top of the tour bus, and there was a house nearby with like a large garage. They just go straight into the garage, burn the fuck up out of the garage, everything. And I think that like the guys were asleep in the bus. So, I mean, probably not asleep. They'd just been buzzed a couple times.
Right.
But just imagine the guys, so like Ozzy's experience with it most likely is that he's sitting on a tour bus, you hear the thud, all the noises. I'm sure he's aware the plane crashed, but like just the dawning on him of like, oh, it was a bad crash. Oh, everyone I know is dead, including my, at this time, most loved musical collaborator who co-wrote Crazy Train. Tough time for Oz. Tough time.
And that right there, the reaction is all he could muster despite all the elements of that story, which I think is the most metal thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Every part, like we're at a tour bus park in Florida.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't come up with that.
Yeah.
There's a plane there.
Uh-huh.
I would have rejected that in the notes.
Where the fuck's this plane coming from?
Well, didn't you say it's a tour bus park?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a plane though. And we're in Florida. And some guy's just going to take you up in it. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
No, I didn't either until last week.
And now you want to transition into your international relations thoughts?
I mean, if you want to talk about other stuff, I don't want to force it on you, but I did read a column that made me mad online.
Okay, let's do that.
So yeah, Eve Barlow, she's a music writer that is, I think, was born in Scotland.
She's very antagonistic on Twitter, right?
I think so. I mean, I don't know. She's got a Twitter presence. She's certainly, I mean, a lot of the articles about like, I'm proudly saying my truth kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I didn't know who she was until the most recent
I didn't either.
Dust up in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Very light euphemism there.
But yeah, she's Jewish and is bothered by criticism of Israel, it seems to me. And will often tweet things to that effect. And in Tablet magazine, she wrote a column where she described the reactions to her tweets as a digital pogrom.
What's that word mean?
It's whenever they would round up Jewish people and kill them.
Okay.
So she's comparing the
Yeah.
mass slaughter of humans to some people unfollowing her.
Yeah, but didn't Marjorie just do this the other day about the masks?
Yeah. There's a lot of people that make bad comparisons.
But it's always that one.
You're right. You're
One
right.
half of it never changes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that she. I don't know the history. I've certainly heard pogrom used outside of the context of the Soviet state, but I always think of it most prominently as like the USSR, like rounding up
That may be where I've heard that word before.
Jewish people and treating them poorly.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, whatever, dude. If I can't give you a history of the word pogrom, or if the best one I can muster is what I just gave you, then obviously I'm not an expert on the entire subject. And I would assume that everyone listening to this knows that we're just two dudes trying to do our best. I would assume that some amount of the reaction to the things I say are going to be like, well, you're not an expert, and I just want to establish I know. But I don't know. I read the thing, and I have some thoughts.
Okay. And I'm just trying not to vomit.
Yeah.
I think that about says it.
Yeah. And so she's just it's stuff that's really all over the top about how difficult it is for her that she's got not even like one of the big things that started blowing up, like how she opens the column is that her name is Eve Barlow, but a lot of people have been tweeting at her Eve Fartlow.
Okay, and I did see something about this because the guy who has the Twitter account Fart weighed in.
Okay. Yeah, no.
I didn't dig to the beginning. It was a
Seth
very
Rogen
kind of an
tweeted
Easter...
a fart emoji in response to the article. Like a lot of Eve 6 has been all over this. I think they changed their name to Eve 6 Fartlow.
It's funnier to me too when I imagine the Eve 6 account not being the lead singer, but sort of like an anthropomorphic representation of
just
the
a hive mind.
Yeah,
I agree. And I mean, just like to lay out my basic position on this stuff. Gonna start by saying that throughout I've mentioned this before, throughout the Excel experience, that's the time that I've been around the highest concentration of Jewish people, and they were the coolest kids there. I loved it very much. Like it was, and so that kind of like that's where I start from, right? That colors the rest of my thinking. is that like, these people are my friends. The people who they view as in their group, I view as extended friends, right? I was thinking about whenever I wrote the research paper in junior year that got me so fired up about Irish history. I had a good friend, who we were in the same English class together, and we would always check each other's papers. Like we would do the editing for each other. And his paper was on Golda Meir. So that's a former prime minister of Israel. So I just at the time was like, I'm learning about my stuff. He's learning about his stuff. This is so cool. And I read his paper with great interest.
That is cool. A cultural swap.
Yeah. But whenever we often throw around the term war crimes, and I just want to be clear that war crimes does have a specific definition. Like there are treaties that lay out how you are allowed to treat people in the course of war. And if you break those treaties, that's called a war crime. And one of those things is if you occupy territory that you obtained through a war, you can't just give it out to your citizens willy-nilly. That's a war crime. And that's what is currently going on with, the parts of Israel, like the parts that Palestinians live in. Like, Sheikh Jarrah is the one that has been the big point of contention in the last couple weeks. And was I aware of this place? Like, did I know the neighborhood prior to this? No, dude, I didn't. So if you want to gotcha me on that, there you go. I just gave it to you.
I didn't know the name of it, but that specific neighborhood has been a big part of this for like 50 years.
Yeah.
The families that live there have their families have lived there for a long, long time, and there aren't that many of them.
Yeah, and after this happened, I did go and read up on it. So I can tell you, like in 1948,
Jordan. I want to say
the Jordanian army is advancing. Yeah. Britain is in control of the area at the time, and they go to the Jewish families living in Sheikh Jarrah and say, "You've got 2 hours to get out, and you're never coming back to your home because the army is coming, and it's going to be bad if you don't." Which heartbreaking, fucking terrible. But so then once the Jordanian army's got the place, they're like, what do we do with it? And it's war. So similar things are happening in other areas. So the Israeli forces or the British forces, whatever, are pushing out Palestinians from their homes. So it's pretty much just a swap. I mean, and I don't I don't want to say that to say whatever, it's just a swap. Like I said, it's terrible. It's fucking heartbreaking. If someone made me leave my house, that's where all this comes to. I just think about if someone forced me out of my house under any circumstance, fucking awful. And so they've got this situation where there's displaced Palestinians living in the place where the displaced Israelis used to live, and the displaced Israelis go live in the place where the displaced Palestinians used to live. And that is how it goes until, the mid-2000s. Like, no Jewish people lived in Sheikh Jarrah from 1948 until the mid-2000s. And then Israel, just over the course of time, this is documented, and I feel like the international consensus on it is pretty strong, just has, without any real concerted attempt at justification, just flaunted these international laws about who can and cannot occupy who can and cannot own and live in and etc. Lands that were gotten through conquest like that, Mm-hmm. And so they've, they eventually got to a place where their current policy is that if you can show some kind of claim that your family was one of the families that had this house before 1948, then you can go back and kick out whoever's living there and tell them that this is your house now. But the key thing here is that there is not a similar right given to Palestinians who, were displaced themselves, right?
Yep.
Like I think it sounds messy to try and redo the swap or undo the swap, but if they were going to try that, I mean, I guess I'll hear them out.
Yeah.
Right? But just saying, well, you took this from us, we're going to take it back. Well, what about the stuff that you took from us? Well, that's still ours. Obviously wrong, I would say. And it seems to me like most of the international community agrees with that position that I'm laying out. And the ways in which they do some of this stuff, to me, seems pretty fucked up. Before all this started up, the last time I was thinking about Israel, before all of this blew up, there was an article, one of my favorite Irish reporters did a piece in one of the Irish newspapers. Ireland is always, whenever we hear about some people who believe that they have a right to the land, but a more powerful force is telling them that they don't, we tend to think that the person with the less claim is the sympathetic one, right?
Yes.
Because that was our relationship with Britain and remains to this day in, Ulster. So there's always been, the first time I learned about this is that they'll fly Palestinian flags at Celtic games, not the Boston Celtics, the Scottish soccer team that a lot of Irish people cheer for.
And I learned of that from you.
Yeah. So Ireland sent aid to a Palestinian community. Like they just sent humanitarian supplies. I believe, I think that, it was a group of people that had their shelters destroyed. And I think like the IDF destroyed them, but it was some kind of like, it was sufficiently unclear. Like the IDF had an explanation, I think. But it was the kind of thing where it's like, these people no longer have shelter. And it's disputed exactly how it got that way. But whatever, let's just get them sheltered. So Ireland sends supplies. Those supplies get destroyed by the IDF. And they're like, maybe it's another misunderstanding. We'll resend the supplies. We'll just send all that same stuff again. Exact same thing happens, dude. It's just humanitarian supplies. It's just fucking shelters and food and shit for people to continue to live. And you've got the army coming in, breaking all of it. Like, and it's fucked up enough if you do that to people who just, own things, or like, if they just like went to fucking Oshman's and got themselves some tents and you tore them down. I don't like that. But it's the property, or it's a gift of another fucking state. Like, how do you think this is going to go? And I mean, Ireland did not declare war, so like they could get away with it, I guess. But it strikes. I would be interested in an explanation where this isn't hateful behavior that is not justified in any sort of moral way. But yeah, so that's what I think about the whole thing. That it seems like the people who have more power are treating the people with less power in a way that is not morally upright.
And just so I'm clear, the Fartlow article was primarily just about people's reaction to her opinions.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously she's touching on the whole thing, right?
Okay.
The basic conflict is that her opinion, she never really seems to try that hard to lay out her opinion. Like she does a lot of like, you people aren't curious about what Zionism means to me. She says that,
okay.
But I see no effort in this piece, at least, to explain what Zionism means to her. It's just a lot of condemning people who criticize her. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've touched on this before, but it's not really something that people speak openly and honestly about, at least in America.
Sure.
It's just not. I mean, I'm obviously not super comfortable with it. I've mentioned that before. People get fired from jobs a lot for speaking about things related. And
I would assume that everyone saw that there was a AP journalist last week who was fired because she was part of a pro-Palestine group in college.
Yeah, in college.
Yeah. And
Mark Lamont Hill was fired from CNN for some comments about this conflict. And that's, this is certainly the biggest one of these sort of intractable conflicts that America is heavily involved in. But I think more than anything, it just, to me, I always am interested in like the media angle of it, because that in large part shapes what people think about it. So to me, it really does get to the manufacturing consent thing, where you hear from your parents, everybody, the media is liberal, which considering that probably most of the people who work in media, especially political media, are center left, that checks out. So on its surface, yes. But then when you really start thinking about it, I mean, when we were talking about 9/11 or when we were talking about Iraq a few weeks ago, I mean, you don't have like competing narratives regarding American foreign policy all that much. Now, I guess probably starting to change a little bit because there are members of Congress who are saying things that I'm frankly floored to be hearing on the floor of Congress, because I never thought you would ever hear anything like that.
Yeah.
There's only a few of them.
Yeah.
And
not going to pass any bills with those
and
opinions.
I also don't know if they're like, to use a phrase I use way too much, like, are they the canary in the coal mine or are they just an aberration? And I tend to think it's probably more the latter, because the machine is the machine. But when you hear about the liberal media and the slant and the conservatives moaning and complaining about that, just watch the way that CNN or even MSNBC covers this issue. They either don't, or they don't explain it in the way that you just did.
See,
they just don't. I mean,
that's how I feel. But one thing about Eve's piece, like the line that I was most incensed by, I will read to you verbatim now. It's short. The mainstream media is skewed entirely against Israel.
Well, and see,
has that been your lived experience?
Well, I think it's I can't speak for her because this is a very personal issue to her. She probably has family that it's very personal to. She has probably has family that's there and is in the middle of this conflict for which there is violence on both sides. Now, you don't often hear it mentioned. This is a popular thing to do in media criticism now, is to just, there's like that New York Times headline rewrite Twitter account.
Yeah.
Because the framing is obviously that it's a 50-50 conflict when, the Palestinian bombs are very crude and very rarely do they actually hit what they're even trying to hit. Like that.
Yeah, I mean, one side has an air force and one side doesn't.
I'm not saying it never happens.
You know?
There's obviously violence and provocation from both sides, but to me, it became very clear to me, even in like college, right? Like even in political science classes, most of the people who are teaching those classes either worked for like the government at the state or federal level, or they worked for the military. So the idea that there's like, and I'm sure it's different in like Berkeley, and it was definitely different once I got to grad school because I could choose my own stuff a little more. But the idea that like your average university is like indoctrinating people with these, like, that's just not true.
Yeah.
It's not been my experience anyways. And then that filters up to the type of people who end up on television, political journalism, they went through those schools. So I don't know. It's tricky because it's very hard to talk about this. That's how much of a machine I feel like the American foreign policy narrative truly is.
And it's I mean, there's obviously a million reasons why that is the way it is. But I think a large one, and I would hope this is like I hope that I accurately express the most innocent one, is that it scrambles you because throughout history, the people who are settling Israel have traditionally been the ones that were mistreated. Like the group with power hurting the group that doesn't have it, Jews are usually the ones that are being hurt, right? And so it's easy. Like that's a lot of what the piece is, right. Of like, look how bad the treatment of Jewish people is, and so it's fucked up then that me sticking up for Zionist beliefs is leading to me getting less offers to write freelance articles, and I get it, but I just don't think that it's like that. The question we're trying to answer here is not, have Jewish people been treated fairly throughout history? The question we're trying to answer is, are Israelis treating Palestinians in a way that is in accordance with international law right now?
Yeah, but obviously it's not that. I mean, yeah, you're right. Yes, but it's just way too hot. It's way too raw. And it's probably an intractable situation for the rest of our lives. Probably. I mean, I don't know, but I know that you're going to hear about this every 5 years, probably for the rest of your life, and it's probably always going to be roughly the same story.
Yeah, and I would assume that this dynamic will continue repeating, but it's really frustrating to me whenever people who say, like, boy, it seems fucked up that the IDF is destroying humanitarian supplies, are then like, oh, so you're anti-Semitic?
Yeah.
Of course I'm not, dude. I don't think that the majority of people who are saying things in support of Palestine are anti-Semitic. I mean, I don't know, dude. I'm not sure. Everyone whenever they're talking about stuff, everyone whenever they're talking on Twitter about anything is vague about what their exact beliefs are. You know, like you're not going to convey it in a tweet. And the people who are legitimately anti-Semitic are probably trying to launder it through Free Palestine type things. But see, taking anyone who says like, boy, I think you should treat those Palestinians better as being anti-Semitic is like she's accusing other people of not being engaging in free debate. And I think that that's the most egregious example I can imagine of not engaging in free debate.
I would agree, but it's also very common. You know, I mean, that is the way that that's why people don't really address it in, you know, the MSM. I think I'm just going to start saying that unironically.
Yeah.
That's just what I'm going to call the mainstream media now, the MSM. But yeah, I mean, then, you know, I don't know, dude. They'll put, you know, it doesn't even really have to be Republican. They'll put senators on television who will make the same sort of points that like that, hey, if you support Palestine, then you're anti-Semitic. If you support any I mean, there's people that's
laughably easy for me to imagine Nancy Pelosi talking about how anyone who says that Palestine is good is an or like decrying anti-Semitism,
right? In
response to someone who just said like
she's probably done it this week.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not hard.
Yeah. No, and then just you know, Eve talks about how she's suffering all these consequences. There was a dinner party she was disinvited from because one of the guests said that they didn't want to go to a dinner party with a Jewish supremacist. And she
harsh language.
Details a lot of those kinds of things. And listen, we like having strong opinions on this podcast. And I don't know, like in some ways I'm stubborn. In some ways, I do consider myself to be someone who goes out of his way to try and understand the other side's arguments.
I would agree.
And I just think at the point where you're suffering all these professional consequences, there has to be somewhere where you ask, is there a reason? Like, are people reacting in horror because I'm doing something horrible? And like, I don't know, the way that she talks about it on Twitter, like the entire conflict, it's upsetting. It's upsetting to me. Like whenever she compares people unfollowing her to the mass slaughter of a group of people, I'm upset by that. So, you know, if she wants to be able to write music articles in as many publications as she was before, maybe she should stop saying things that upset people so much. And like, obviously the details are very important here. Yeah. It's not my, like, there's lots of times that people with legitimate viewpoints have been silenced. The frustrating thing about this is that we feel that people who have the viewpoint that she's saying is monolithic and holding her down, that would be the prime example in my mind of something that's going to get someone unfairly maligned and fired from a job. I don't remember if she was successful or not, but Barry Weiss, America's top free speech warrior, I know attempted to get one of her professors fired at Columbia because he said things about Palestine other than they're terrible and they should go away. So, you know.
So an odd dichotomy, isn't it,
yeah.
TC?
And the other thing is to conflate Palestine and Hamas, you know?
Sure.
Like, that's another thing that Eve talks about is, you know, like she's saying, like, you say all your free Palestine stuff and you think you're doing... This is whenever she most directly engages with actual arguments about Zionism versus anti-Zionism, which I feel like she doesn't engage with very, you know, directly. But the most direct is to say that you think that you're helping free Palestine, you're just helping Hamas. Like you're just creating cover for a terrorist organization. And yeah, I don't know, dude. So what's the alternative? Just let these people let IDF force people out of their homes? I don't know. I don't think I can stand for that. And I mean, like, what do you mean stand for that? The most I'm going to do is record this fucking podcast. But you know, I'm not all right with it. You're not going to get me to you know, write tweets in support of it. And so, you know, yeah.
Yep,
I'm
you've
sure
done a good
Hamas has
job.
done things I wouldn't agree with. I'm sure that there's large groups of Palestinian people that hold views that I don't hold. But I don't know. That's one of the cool things about me. You don't have to hold all of my views for me to think that you deserve not to be kicked out of your house.
Well said.
Yeah.
All right, I got to run.
Cool, man.
I didn't throw up.
Nice.
I might
All right.
now, though. Bye.
Yeah.
That's it for tonight. The high school special is next, so until tomorrow, for everyone who's been a part of this one,
TC and Jake.
we do thank you for watching. Good night.